I want to talk today about my new Trendline study. This is a part of my trading system that I use pretty regularly. The idea is that you draw a trend line from the highest peak on a chart to the next highest peak on a chart and keep doing that all the way down. In this case, there's only these two, but let's just pretend for a minute that none of that price action happened. So you draw it from peak to peak, and as you draw it down, you start seeing these significant levels for it to overcome. So if we've already gotten to, say, this part of the chart, I draw another one from here to here, and you can see that the price drops pretty drastically away from it. So at that point you could be in, and then the further it goes down, if it never recrosses this line, then you're safe to be in. And here you can see it recrossed it a little bit, but then it just dropped again. So, at that point, it's probably time to get out once it touches. And here you can see it crosses the line and then holds on top of it. This is important because trend lines are treated like horizontal resistance and support the same way. It's just on a diagonal. So price line is hitting this at multiple times and then finally breaks through and then uses it as support and then bounces off to the next one. And then it hits that. And the older the lines and the closer the original candles are together, the stronger the line tends to be. Then you're going to get some interaction on most of these major lines no matter what. I mean, you can see that here it's like it comes up and then, you could think about maybe shorting in here, but as it breaks through, that's a pretty significant break. While it doesn't make it again, I probably wouldn't be in this trade because the probability isn't, I mean, to me, this looks like, you can also draw trend lines from the bottom. Same idea, only instead of going short, you go long. But this one is, it looks to me like this one is rocketing up. But then when it breaks through here, it's like hard to tell. It's just sort of consolidating at the bottom, which is, why these are helpful because it helps you visualize the price action over time. So as it crashes through this one, it comes back and not only retests it, but breaks through. So at this point, this line is broken. This line has been broken. And what we can do is just move this line to the next highest peak where it dropped off and then, dropped off a cliff. And you can see again, it's reaching and rejecting and then breaking through, and then it's a decisive move to the next one. And this line was drawn well before this price action started. And so, once the line breaks, it will often retest that line, and you can kind of tell that this is sort of on its way up. This is a 4-hour chart on Apple, and you can see that this is a pretty significant horizontal level for it to break. So there's a good chance that this will keep going up to this line. So I got tired of drawing all of these lines, so I created a study. And if you go into your studies and look for the trend line that hopefully you just downloaded. You can get all of these on my, there's a link to my doc that has all of these in it. And you can see that it's drawn a monstrous number of trend lines here. So let me actually go into my drawings and clear the drawing set. So what's left here is just the study. So the study is actually drawing all these lines, and these are the lines that I would draw where I would draw them. This dashed line is, sometimes you can have a situation where you have like the lowest low, and it draws it to the next bar, and that's, if it gets respected, it can be a really powerful trend. Often it'll just crash right through it and ignore it. But I draw it on there anyway, just because whatever you can decide in the trend settings, you can turn that on or off. That's that first bar trend. So if you don't like it, you can just turn it off and then it'll not draw it. The other thing that you can do is when you add the study, you can restrict it to just the highs or just the lows. So it'll show you, these are the lows from the bottom up and the highs are from the top down. You can have it show points, so where it uses each one of these is the point. So there's a little dot where it's calculating the line from. So there's a dot here and here for this upper line. There's a dot here and down here for the next line, and you can see that it's using each one of them. There's an option to use the body instead of the wick, and this, instead of, it's just like advertised on the package, it'll use the wicks instead of the bodies. This study is actually fairly good for the first bar trend. I find that often the body will of the first bar trend will follow pretty well for a while anyway, and it can be an indicator of a pretty powerful reversal if it stays on the other side, manages to capture that line and stay on it. And then the other thing you can do is add an alert. This is off by default because it's annoying, but a lot of people like alerts, and all that does is when it breaks through, when the price action breaks through a previous line, so not the one that was just drawn, but of the previous candle, but of a significant line break, then it will alert you to that. Which can be handy, especially if you're using bodies, because then if it wicks above, then it's a pretty good chance that you should go pay attention to it. The line style will just let you change. I mean, if you don't like the way it looks, you can change the style of the lines. The color of the lines, like most of my studies, is controlled through this globals area at the bottom. So there's a high color and a low color, high dot color, low dot color. Off color isn't actually used. And you could pretty much ignore the plots part of it if you wanted to. The alerts is just there because we have alerts, and if you wanted to individually set alerts for every single one of them, I guess you can. But yeah. So the other thing here that's cool is the range. This is on a couple of my studies as well, where you can use different things. Chart range is going to take the range of the chart. I mean, what kind of chart do you got? This is 180 days, 4 hours. So this is using 180 days of data to draw these lines. But I could just say days and make it say 10 days. And that's going to only use and since it's a 4-hour chart, you can see the volume bars. This is 10 days worth of action here. Or if you'd rather, you can do a specific bar range, and that'll let you use, say, the first 100 bars. So if you're on like a 5-minute chart and you want the last 100 bars, I may add an option in a future release to use a time. So you can say use the last half hour or the last 2 hours or whatever. But right now it's just bars, and you'll have to calculate that. But you can see that these are all drawing from that area. So hopefully, if you understand how this is working and why it's important to understand when trend changes, this can be helpful. Let me know on Twitter at Richard the Red, and if you're using it, if you like it, if you have suggestions, also let me know. Hope you enjoy it.